With us this morning to review the papers are the broadcasters Afua Hagen and Thomas Copeland. Guys, lovely to see you both. I do hope you're well. We will, Thomas, we'll gently gloss over the rugby match that's taking place a little later today between Scotland and Ireland, and instead go to Afua for her first story. The front of the Times, and this is all words from our Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss.
Well, Liz Truss kind of stating the obvious here, saying that she feels that the peace talks, or the supposed peace talks that are going on between Russia and Ukraine, are a smokescreen for Putin to continue committing war crimes. We're about 21, 22, 23 days into this war now, and as these supposed peace talks, like I said, have been going on, of course, yes, Russia have continued bombing cities, bombing maternity hospitals. 35 medical units across the country have been bombed and bombing civilian targets. So Liz Truss slightly behind the curve in saying that she feels it's a smokescreen and that these talks are not genuine. I would have said that weeks ago. And meanwhile, we have Putin staging this huge rally last night with this kind of boxing ring type set to kind of, garner the nation and garner everyone together to get behind this war. Now, rumours that people in the stadium and attending that rally were perhaps government workers that were coerced into being part of this huge kind of wartime rally, quote-unquote celebration, as you will. And meanwhile, you've got Joe Biden and Xi Jinping having talks yesterday, and President Joe Biden trying to persuade his Chinese counterpart that it's not in their best interest to support Russia, to be providing them with weapons or money as sanctions continue to bite the Russian economy. Now, at the moment, we don't know what China will decide to do. China seems to be Russia's only real ally at the moment. But as sanctions continue, and Liz Truss says that these sanctions are likely to be permanent, then Putin and Russia will have to turn to somewhere to continue banking, to continue making money and having the money rolling in for them to be able to fund this war effort. So, of course, we don't know how successful those talks between Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart will be, if at all.
Yeah, well, interesting also to note that at the point at which Liz Truss describes these peace talks as a smokescreen, Volodymyr Zelensky is calling for face-to-face talks between Russia and Ukraine. Thomas, though, take us to the front of The Guardian, your story.
Yeah, The Guardian leading with continuing anger over P&O's summary sacking of over 800 staff on Thursday of this week. So this story concerns a threat from the business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, that if the way in which P&O has fired those staff was in breach of the regulations here in the UK, they actually face an unlimited fine. Kwarteng pointing out that a failure in the UK to alert the redundancy service and the insolvency service that a large-scale redundancy is on its way actually constitutes a criminal offence. He also highlighted in this letter sent to P&O just how much support P&O had received from the taxpayer. Even just over the last year or two, the BBC were reporting that the company got £15 million in grants in 2020, and it's a really significant part, P&O, of the UK's transport infrastructure. It constitutes around 15% of the cargo of the freight coming in and out of the UK. Now, the company say, obviously, they were facing a £100 loss year on year. They needed to cut costs, and the legality of the way in which they've sacked these staff will obviously be fought out likely in the courts over the next number of weeks and months. But what seems to be fairly undeniable is the callous and I think almost inhumane way in which the company decided to go about this. Little to no warning to its staff, private handcuffed trained security guards contracted by the company in the last number of days in preparation for taking staff off boats, new agency crews waiting on the dockside in some cases. And obviously the most famous of this example is being fired over Zoom, which is almost something that, over the pandemic has become a joke. The idea that P&O would actually consider this a valid way in which to deal with a staffing issue is almost beyond belief. So, P&O will come through all of this. It will probably succeed in losing these 800 workers, hiring agency staff at a much lower cost. The question will be the immense reputational damage that will undeniably be done to the company. How much of an impact is that going to have on its future business?
Yeah, well, Afra, just pick up on that as we look at the front of the mirror. I get the idea, and the government have been saying that, people can vote with their feet. They may well choose not to work with P&O Ferries any longer. However, as the front of the Mirror reveals, they are getting their staff on an exceptionally low fee, if we're to believe £2.60 an hour. The travel industry has not been in a great state for a couple of years. I mean, I suppose the argument that P&O would make is that this was inevitable, this was unavoidable.
And that is an argument they could make, but like Thomas alluded to there, it's the callous way in which they have let their long-time workers go. We've got people who've worked for P&O for years who built their whole lives around working at this company and thought they would be there for years to come. And like you said, there's now talk of them hiring agency staff at £2.60 an hour, whilst, they have let staff that have been loyal to them go without any notice over Zoom. And like Thomas said there as well, it's almost kind of become a bit of a joke over the past couple of years, people being fired by Zoom. And some of these Zoom calls were actually pre-recorded. The people who were letting them go couldn't even be bothered to face them in real time. And I think that's where this really comes from, where the outrage comes from, that there was no notice about this at all. Workers woke up on Thursday, going to work, came home on Thursday with absolutely no job, no career, and no way forward. Some people who both incomes in a household come from working from P&O, and I think that's where the real anger comes from. And not only that, it seems that they are staffing their ship with agency workers that are paid a fraction of what they're being paid, and P&O seemingly trying to continue their business, but without loyal staff that have been with them for years. Callous indeed. And if they are in breach of any employment laws, which it looks like they are, it seems that the government will come down on them very hard, and I hope that they do.
It is an awfully big if, however, isn't it? I mean, Thomas, you look like you wanted to come in the story there.
Well, what I was going to say was the problem that P&O faces is such a totally unnecessary issue. I mean, it seems to me a catastrophic business decision that the way in which to go about this is to bring all boats alongside and then fire all 800 staff in one go. And this is why I think, the story in some ways, the legality of whether or not they can fire and rehire in this way will be figured out in the courts. And obviously, there's political arguments as to whether that should be allowed or not. But it seems to me that the really issue that pains people and the average viewer watching it is that issue, bringing boats alongside and firing all 18 staff in one go. From a business point of view, that seems to be a really foolish decision on the part of P&O. It could have been a process that was dragged out over a much more extended period of time. The parent company, DP World, which is based in Dubai, gave £270 million to its shareholders in dividends last year. Now, I take the point that it was £100 million loss year on year, but it wasn't in such an inviable business situation that it couldn't have spread this process of removing staff, replacing them with cheaper workers over a longer period of time, or at least done it in a way which was much more humane.
Yeah. Afo, then, let's conclude with your last story on the front of the Daily Mail. You've got 40 seconds. Go on.
Yes, so Prince William and Kate, the Cambridges, are off on their tour of the Caribbean, and they have actually run into some issues in Belize, where they're supposed to be visiting. I think it's from tomorrow, and basically Prince William is the patron of a charity, and that charity has been accused by the local people of land grabbing. And so the local people there basically saying that they don't want the Cambridges to visit them in this island. The Cambridges also landed their helicopter on private land, which they're not really happy about as well. And so the Caribbean tour has got off to not a great start. We saw what happened in Barbados earlier this year, where they've declared independence from the Queen, and it looks like Jamaica could be having the same whispers as well. So like I said, the Caribbean tour has not got off to a great start.
And it's what's surprising is, of course, William and Kate, they don't usually misstep on tours like this. They're usually better advised. Anyway, Afua, Thomas, we will leave it there. See you again next. We're going to have a cup of coffee. The rest of you, stay exactly where you are. Coming up after the break, the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, well, there's a name we've all become very familiar with over the past 4 weeks. He says that talking is Russia's last chance to limit the damage from its mistakes. Will the Kremlin listen?